Broadcasting live from the Business Radio X studios in Atlanta, Georgia, it's time for Atlanta Business Radio, spotlighting the city's best businesses and the people who lead them.
And we are back with ATDC Radio, broadcasting on the Business Radio X network. We've got a studio full. Of course, studio's a little smaller than some of them that we work from, but I just absolutely love broadcasting live down here at ATDC. The energy, the IQ points, everything is just so much fun down here, isn't it, man?
Yeah, you never know who you're going to meet.
I know.
Old friends, new friends.
This is going to be a blast. Please join me in welcoming to the broadcast for our first segment in this episode. We have with us, with the SBIR with ATDC, Miss Connie Casteel. How are you?
Hi, nice to be here.
Well, we are delighted to have you. SBIR, what does it mean? It's a lot of letters, right?
Right.
Tell us about
Alphabet soup. Alphabet soup. SBIR stands for Small Business Innovation Research, and it is a federal program that helps companies, small companies, get funding to overcome technical barriers. And it's different than or normal grants because there is an element that it has to have a high commercial potential. So it's excellent for startup companies needing seed capital funding. So it helps them overcome a technical barrier. It comes in the form of grants and contracts, and it's federal money, and companies can get up to $1.5 million that they don't have to pay back.
Now, how does it work with the ATDC? Is this associated with the ATDC, a subset of ATDC, or is it a separate program that's just works with ATDC?
Right. So SBIR is federal program, but my role here at ATDC as the SBIR Catalyst is to help companies with SBIR. So I manage helping companies with non-dilutive funding, meaning funding that's not going to take away part of their equity. And so my primary role is here to assist with SBIR because it's a complex process and program.
To apply for?
Correct. To apply for, to understand. There are 11 federal agencies that have their own SBIR programs, and they're all unique.
And then, so you need kind of a Sherpa. This is hard for an individual just to kind of go online to the .gov and then just navigate and fill out the appropriate forms.
Exactly.
So then what made you so good at this?
Well, I started here at Georgia Tech helping companies license out NASA-developed technology, and that's called spinning out a technology, so something that NASA developed that maybe the general population might be able to utilize. And while we were helping them to spin out technologies, they asked us to help them spin technologies in, which meant how can what's out there in the world benefit NASA? So they utilized a program called SBIR. So that's how I began doing this. And then over time, I started learning about the other federal agencies and their programs.
And then it's all called SBIR in their departments as well?
Right. So each agency that has over $100 million in their external research and development budgets are required to set money aside for this program. So they all, so there are of the 11 agencies, they range from just barely having that over $100 million to having quite a bit, billions of dollars in their external program.
Now, is this one of those programs that people just aren't aware of, and there's a lot of opportunity and money to be had if you kind of know your way around?
It is. And that's part of my job is kind of make awareness to help people understand that it is out there and then help them through the process depending on which agency that they are looking at, or sometimes they don't even know which agency would be appropriate for their technology.
Now, have you gotten to the point where you're able to see at kind of a glance like, oh, this will be a good fit or this won't be a good fit?
Right. So I can, through the time that I've worked with companies, I can't guarantee, but I can see some elements of what would make a good proposal, what wouldn't. And that's part of my responsibilities, is to kind of help coach companies to make sure that they're going after the most appropriate agency for their particular technology, and B, to make sure that it's even something that they could utilize as a company.
So now what's the biggest challenge for you? Is finding the appropriate companies or navigating the maze of government bureaucracy?
Well, I would say that navigating the government bureaucracy definitely is complex. But one of my roles is sometimes I don't completely understand a company's technology and what they're working on. So there might be some other potential funding for them if I knew a little bit more about their company. So sometimes companies come to me and they'll tell me a small bit of what they're working on. And if I knew the broader understanding of what they were doing, then I might be able to point them in other directions.
So then how do you make yourself aware of all that's going on here? Because there's hundreds of companies.
Well, I try to get around to know the companies, and I start working with the companies usually when they're at the educate level here at ATDC. Mm-hmm. And as they grow, I'm knowing them more and more. And sometimes they pivot. They change direction of their company. I work a lot with the other catalyst here, and they let me know of a potential company. And I just have an informational, conversation with that company to understand what they're doing.
And then for you, have you had any big successes where people were able to get kind of a big number in terms of funding?
Right. Well, I've worked with several companies since 2013. I've helped companies here get about $60 million in this non-dilutive funding.
Wow.
And
so that's game-changing amount of money where that can really propel them to the next level.
Exactly. One of our ATDC graduate companies was Pintrop Securities. Mm-hmm. They started with SBIR funding, and that helped them to attract investors. And then they grew from there, and now they are, I think they recently have 250 employees that they started with a one person.
Wow.
And then we have Shauvik Roy of MoQuality.
So introduce us to who you brought.
So I have Shauvik Roy here, Choudhary, and who is of MoQuality, who also received National Science Foundation, NSF, SBIR funding.
Mm-hmm. Welcome.
Thanks for the intro.
So now tell us about what MoQuality's up to. How are you serving folks?
Yeah. So before that, I'll just give a brief intro about myself. I got my PhD from Georgia Tech. This was actually started from my PhD research at Tech. And essentially, when I was at Tech, we were building cool developer tools to help developers create better software applications. And that's what, created MoQuality, because at MoQuality, what we do is we build AI-powered mobile app testing solutions. So that developers who are building these mobile apps can better test their software and go to market with confidence.
And then it tests it on multiple devices. How does it test it?
That's right. So think about it, right? As a consumer, you can pick any app, mobile device that you can buy in the store. There are more than 40,000 devices, different models that are available globally.
Right.
Right. But developers, they probably have one device in their hand that they're developing against, but they need to check their apps against all of these devices. Right?
And the ones, some people have old phones, right? So
Exactly. So, they don't want to procure these devices, but today there are several companies on the internet that rent you devices by the minute, including Amazon Device Farm, Google Firebase Test Lab. But in order to use these devices, somebody needs to write a code, test scripts, which have to be extensive. And what we have seen is that people don't have the patience for that. They would, quickly test it on the, phones that friends and families have.
Right, that they have in the office.
Right, they have in the office. Or larger companies will hire an army of testers to do all the testing manually. Right, nobody wants to take their developers away from coding the app to writing test cases. So that's where we have developed an AI solution that takes that app, crawls through it on different devices. We call it robo testing, and it helps them find bugs faster and launch their apps with confidence.
So then, what was the reason that you said, let's play out this SBIR instead of just doing it a more conventional way?
So to be honest, I was a PhD student with an idea, right, and a prototype,
right,
and we actually went through Georgia Tech's Tiger program, which pairs PhDs with MBA students and law school students. But after we finished the program, we actually won the Georgia Tech startup competition. So there was a lot of hype. We had clear direction that, this would be successful, but I had zero money to pay these, guys, right? And all of these guys had high school, college debt, right? So they took up jobs and I was again, alone trying to run this.
So, but how did you even kind of become aware of SBIR as even a funding option?
Yeah, so while as a student, I was connected with Venture Lab at Georgia Tech, which is, ATDC is the public facing side, that helps startups. Venture Lab helps Georgia Tech startups. So they connected me with ATDC, and that's how I met Connie and learned about the SBIR program.
So you weren't familiar with it prior to that?
No. I was familiar with government grants, but all of that money comes to Georgia Tech, and that's mainly for doing academic research, right? Now we were funded by NSF before. My PhD advisor has tons of grants, right? But that is federal funding, meant to actually, work on developing, prototypes and writing academic papers. You can't use that for commercializing tech, coming out of university, and SBIR was a perfect bridge for us to take that technology from Georgia Tech, license it, and build a company to actually develop it further and take it to market.
So then once you met Connie, what happened then?
So once I met Connie, there was...
Your life changed.
The heavens parted and the doves flew up.
To be honest, the first time I went to her, she was like, hey, this is just an idea. We need to write a proposal. And that took, some time for me to understand what would sell. Because at the end of the day, NSF wasn't going to fund any research project. They were going to fund a business idea, right? So we had gone through the, business plan competition. So we had like some bits and pieces. But putting it down in a proposal and throwing together a budget, there are a lot of things that the NSF cares for, and that I didn't know, right? I had not written a grant. I had helped my advisor write parts of a grant, but I have never solely written an entire grant before. So there was this Connie, who had all of this experience and examples from previous startups that had got funded, guiding me. So with her guidance, with some of my friends at Georgia Tech who had gotten SBIR before, I was successfully able to put this grant together and get it funded.
So now what was the process of just filling out the application? Is that something you just knock out in an afternoon or like 15 minutes?
So luckily, we had a research paper, which actually provided the technical pieces of the grant. But the grant essentially is, not just the idea, but also how will it have a broader impact on society? How will it help consumers? How will it create more jobs? How will, this take forward? And, so that was all the different pieces that I had to figure out. And, without the help from ATDC and Connie, I probably would have had a shitty proposal, and I don't know if I would have got it funded.
So now, so you think if you were on your own and you stumbled across this on the internet, SBIR, oh, this sounds good, you think that you couldn't have done it on your own without help?
There is a huge, friction because you don't know, if you're trying to do it the first time, if you have, help and guidance from folks who have done it before, who have seen several proposals, you actually, get a lot of more confidence, right? Now, the NSF program managers are also available to take calls, but way before, right? And I didn't know that, right? Connie told me that. So, all of these resources are available. And, Connie didn't charge me anything, right? Like most other places, if you go and ask for help, you'll get like a huge bill, right? Above it, writing services and all. But I think
so. You would, if there was no Connie or this program wasn't part of the ATDC, and you stumbled upon it, you would have just self-selected out. You wouldn't have pursued it because it would have been too hard, or you didn't want to waste the time or the energy to do all of the work. But because Connie came into your life and helped you and said, this is possible, you might want to do this, here's some examples, that gave you the confidence to pursue this and to really, invest time, because this wasn't, a 15-minute thing. It took a lot of time and energy.
Yeah, and it's not a short, term thing.
Right.
You submit a proposal, wait 6 months to get a
6 months,
response.
right.
And startups are hard, and,
right.
everything can change in those 6 months.
But you wouldn't even attempt that if you didn't feel confident that you were going to succeed at the end of the day. You wouldn't have just taken a flyer and said, let me do this and hope in 6 months it's going to work out. Right. She had to give you confidence that, hey, there's a good chance that this is going to work out.
And in the meantime, I was, teaching at Georgia Tech. I took a side job. I was bootstrapping this, right?
Right.
So this actually gave me a jump start and actually helped me hire more people so that I could scale operations, build a product, and actually go to market.
So from the time you applied, when did you get an indication that, hey, this is going to work out?
So we, applied in December, I believe, and then in summer, which is, June end, we got an indication that, hey, your proposal is selected. Give us some more information. And I think in August, that's when I, left everything and jumped at it full time.
At what point are they cutting you a check?
So NSF is, you have to register on their website, and then, that whole process is there, but it's very short, right? They tell you end of July that, hey, end of June that start from July, right? So it's very instant.
So once you're in, then the funds are released pretty quickly?
Yeah. Funds are released pretty quickly. And it depends on...
Tell me what that was like when the fund transfer occurred.
That was
high fives all around, right?
So for me, I had never dealt with so much money before, right? I was a grad student paying like really small money. So I felt like a really big sense of responsibility. What they do is they hold it in their account, and then you can transfer it to your bank account. So I was like, no, I don't want to take all of this money. I'll take it in
pieces. Right.
And then, but with that, I think it gave us this, huge sense of resource, right, that we could use. Now, of course, you can't use it for non-R&D stuff, right? So you can only use it for research and development. But it helped me get the initial engineers. And I went back to Georgia Tech to hire some of the, PhD
right, the same
there.
Students that probably helped you early on, right?
And one of them actually decided to drop their PhDs and join.
Wow.
So
then you feel a sense of responsibility for that too, right?
Exactly. Right.
But it's also just not the money itself. It's what came with the money, because then you were able to attract investors from.
Exactly. Also, they just don't give you money and leave you, right? They actually have a workshop. So I had to fly to DC to attend a 2-day workshop where they tell you about customer discovery. Some of these things I'd already learned at ATDC.
Right.
But still, it is at a national level. It's sponsored by the government, right? So there is a lot of responsibility with that money. Right?
So now, when you get the money, now you get more resources, and then now you're building the dream, right? Now it's coming to fruition. What stage are you at right now?
So since then, we went through an accelerator, Techstars. We used that to scale our company, grow even further. Last year, we raised a seed round of $2.5 million, and now we are actually in the ATDC signature company. So
right. So you started ATDC, kind of briefly went away, then came back.
Yeah.
So you feel very strongly that ATDC has been instrumental, right? This
Definitely
wouldn't have occurred without their help.
Yeah. For sure, right? So ATDC has these 3 different levels, right? Educate, accelerate, and signature. Mm-hmm. So I think they are really good, and nicely aligned with, a company's life cycle, because at the start, everybody has an idea, right?
Right.
They need the education. Then we became accelerate when we got SBIR and we got our first customer, right? And then when we went out, got, VC dollars, and, we showed that, hey, we have runway, we have a big team. Then we came back in as a signature company.
And then was there any kind of doubt that you would come back at that point? Because you had more choices at that point.
No, for us, this was always home. We started at Georgia Tech. This is a place we called home, because most of our talent that we get is from across the bridge, right? Students wanting to intern with us or working part-time. We also have active collaborations with Georgia Tech. So we couldn't think of any other place than this. And
then, so what do you need more right now? How can we help?
If any app developer who's trying to go to market, we have a very fairly inexpensive and, almost free solution that they can use to make sure that their apps are well tested. So if any app developer that's planning to launch their app, send them to MoQuality. We'll help them out, make sure that they get their initial early adopters, and that the early adopters have a good experience with their app.
And then what's the website?
It's MoQuality, MoQuality.com.
Connie, you must be so proud, right? These are the stories that are why you do this, right? This is why you get up in the morning.
Definitely. And Shauvik is one example of companies that have benefited. And it, as I was saying a few minutes ago, that it not only is the money that helps them have cash in their pocket to complete the research, but it gives them more confidence. It helps them be introduced to investors, and it helps overcome those, what we could say, de-risk technologies.
Right.
So it is more attractive to
investors. Because it's been vetted by the government.
Exactly.
It's almost there.
It's
so
almost
it just
there.
needs kind of like that next level push.
Right.
So now this is what you do full time, is just help the folks navigate SBIR?
That is correct. There's a sister program called STTR, but it runs almost exactly like SBIR. So I help companies with that. And then, other non-dilutive funding. If there's, maybe it's a direct contract, maybe, something that's not going to take away the equity. Maybe it's some help with a foundation grant. But my primary role is with the SBIR.
And you can tell pretty quickly, just if you learn more about kind of what they're up to, if these kind of programs are a fit and they should pursue this kind of grant.
Exactly. I ask them some key questions to understand where they are now, where they hope to be, their timeline, and things that they have to overcome. And so it's a lot of back and forth questioning, and then educating them on different aspects of their company, because as Shauvik was saying, sometimes I have people that come with ideas, but they haven't thought through what's the commercial potential of this. And
that's needed in order to get the grant. So now if somebody wanted to kind of connect with you, what's the best way to find you?
Sure. I have a What is SBIR that is once a month. I was on Mondays and now we're switching it to Tuesdays. But it's a 1 hour high level overview, that they can go to the ATDC.org website and look at the calendar and sign up for the next one. And I think the next one is August. Oh, I don't have the date in front of me, but
that's all on the website.
Exactly.
And they can find you or SBIR if they search for your name or SBIR on the website.
Right, exactly. So I'd like people to come to this overview session first. It's just a 1 hour. And then when we can sit down and have an appointment one-on-one. And that way they can then share with me what they're working on. So we're not spending the whole time talking about what is SBIR.
Right. And then that's required kind of in order for you to really give them good information. You need good information, right?
Exactly. And then we can discuss all the possibilities, and sometimes it might not be right for them right now, but it might be in the future. So I've had companies that have met at first and then they've come back later on the road and they say, now I'm ready to pursue this.
Well, congratulations on the success and the momentum. And like Lee said, you must just be beaming with pride. I can tell that you find this incredibly rewarding work, don't you?
Oh, definitely. I love to see companies that I can track from when they start as a PhD student, for example, and go all the way to being a successful company.
Well, and we love to hear and share these stories. So let's make a point of capturing some of these stories as we go along. Let's do this again periodically, yeah?
Sure. Anytime.
All right. Hey, stay with us. We're going to visit with one more guest.
Thanks.
All right. There's some debate, Lee, about how to pronounce this gentleman's last name because our producer didn't ask him before we went on air. So we're going to let him pronounce his own last name. But please join me in welcoming to the broadcast now IoT and manufacturing startup catalyst, Kenji. How are you, sir?
Hello, I'm Kenji Takeuchi.
So you're Kenji.
Kenji's fine.
Welcome to the show, man. Did you learn anything in that last segment?
Oh, yes. I learned about a great company, and I already knew how great Connie was doing. So that was reaffirming.
So how's your SBIR grant coming along?
Oh, boy.
I know somebody. If you haven't made any progress, I got somebody for you.
Okay, you know someone.
So tell us about your work here at the ATDC.
Well, I'm a catalyst focusing on IoT and manufacturing.
So Internet of Things, that's a buzzword we're hearing a lot about. Can you kind of educate our listeners about what specifically that is? Sure.
The Internet of Things is when you have a physical device, sensors, and other type of products that are connected to the internet through cloud services and connectivity. But we're seeing these sensors and devices put all around our environments, connected cities, connected cars, connected homes, businesses, workers, people, health. And so this connectivity of devices to the internet is creating new business models, is gathering new data. It's making all types of opportunities for the consumer and for businesses.
So now it seems like to a lay person that they're just putting the internet on all kinds of things that I'm not understanding why they're connected. Like why is that a good thing? My refrigerator is connected to the internet.
Well, that is one of the examples of maybe more. Some people would think it's trivial, but maybe some don't think.
Right.
It's
maybe
trivial,
I'm not
right?
aware of the benefits of that.
But that particular solution, maybe some people, would find that important. But I think it's more the concept of making, devices smarter and connected. And, what's interesting about it is that once you get this connectivity, you can gather data and share that data or, cross correlate that data with other sets of data that may give you new insights and new discoveries and new businesses and ways to help people. So I think one of the driving forces of it, other than the convenience of the information for the consumer, is, what are we going to learn tomorrow from all these different data sets who knew that they mattered and meant something together and can do important things together.
Now, how does the Internet of Things kind of balance the people's privacy?
Oh, yes. I think that's probably one of the hotter questions with Internet of Things is privacy and security.
Right, because you're capturing a lot of data. And if it's anonymous data, it probably, I don't care. But if you start knowing stuff about me and then somebody can use that against me at some point, then I do care. So how does that balance kind of occur right now?
Well, I think the base philosophy is that it should all be anonymous and it should be used for the good of the consumer and add value to them. But you are right that, in instances you may agree to allow your information to be used by the service that you're using. And in those cases, some may feel that's, intruding on something that they want to be private. So I think, people could be more careful about what they agree to, or the industry is going to just change and make everybody feel, well, not everybody, but most people feel more comfortable. But it's challenging. I don't think that there's a simple solution that's going to be able to be described easily.
Now, is the genie out of the bottle? Are we at the point where privacy is just something that, back in the day, that was something we should care about?
Well, I think that, again, I'm not an expert on exact demographics, but, my feel is that those that are maybe younger or growing up today will be used to certain things being public. And they see the value of those things being public, like their social media experiences. So I think that, in a way it is out of the bottle, but I think society will get used to certain things being public, and then certain things that are public or non-private now, and that nobody likes will that'll
you
change.
Think it'll just kind of regulate itself?
I think it'll regulate itself. I think through policy and through just consumer behavior and other driving forces.
So then how did you kind of find yourself here at the ATDC? What was your background?
Well, I had a startup company a while back, and really did enjoy being an entrepreneur and had the interest in the startup community. And then I got acquired. My company got acquired and stayed in the Fortune 500 world for quite a while. And once I had a opportunity to kind of re-engage into the local startup community, I came immediately back to ATDC, where I was very familiar with, and looked to get involved. And I was lucky enough to have a role here as a catalyst.
So then, what's your day-to-day role as a catalyst? So are companies coming up to you and say, "Hey, I have this idea. Can you help me with that?" Or what do you do as a catalyst?
I think. As we mentioned before, there are multiple stages of companies. We have our educate very early stage and accelerate that are more in the middle, and then our signatures that are more mature. And so, yes, I think at all levels, I have companies that I actively, try to engage with and learn what they're doing, and vice versa. They come to me, and at those different levels, they have different questions, but essentially, they are, have physical devices. They want to know how to leverage the Internet of Things for their products and their roadmaps. And they also may have questions about how do they manufacture those products and scale them and prototype them. So there's those type of manufacturing type of support that I'm happy to give.
And then do you find yourself making connections, helping them kind of take their idea or even their prototype to the appropriate people to help them get to the next level? Is that part of your role as well?
Yeah, definitely. We have partners at ATDC that are manufacturing partners. We have legal partners that help patent, physical products. We have partners that are electronic distributors that have different components and can suggest the right parts for prototyping and the right components for mass production. So, and I'm always trying to connect those dots and be a connector for the companies that I'm helping.
Now, are you seeing, they're talking about 5G coming online shortly. Is that going to take this to a new level when that happens?
Definitely. I think 5G.
What is stuff about 5G that maybe we're not understanding yet, or what possibilities are going to occur when that kind of comes online?
Well, I think, my, simplistic view of 5G, because I'm not a particular 5G expert, is that the incredible bandwidth and ubiquity of the signal, mobile based data access is going to allow for devices, Internet of Things devices, to connect very easily to the network. But these high bandwidths is what may be the game changer. With the high bandwidth available, video is a very common sensor, if you call it that is being utilized for Internet of Things and business models. And so business and other type of streaming data become very possible and very economic through 5G networks.
And so you're bullish about the whole industry, this whole channel of Internet of Things. You think it's going to be more and more. We haven't hit peak Internet of Things.
Well, that's funny. Just recently, I was wondering where Internet of Things was on the Gartner hype cycle, if people are familiar with that term, and it's probably just past the peak. And so I do think that the hype is definitely at the peak. It seems to be, according to Gartner's, that it may be coming, a little more realistic in the industry about what it can and can't do. But I am definitely, positive and sure in myself that the Internet of Things will drive, a lot of future business, a lot of future opportunity, and very interesting solutions and products for consumers and businesses.
So now, where does kind of self-driving cars and things like that fit into this?
Well, it's definitely a category within the connected devices and Internet of Things, and so that's one of many categories that's taking advantage of this connectivity of physical to the cloud, and then all the data and analytics behind it.
Do you think it's going to be one of those things where it's kind of gradually, then suddenly, where like we're talking about this and then all of a sudden they're going to be everywhere?
I think so. I think it's already sneaking up on you, and in the sense that you're getting used to the connectivity around you. Like, I think maybe a couple years ago, 2-3 years ago, people were like, "There's no way I'm going to have an Alexa in my house. It's I don't want it listening to me." And then now it's like you can't live without it for many people that have had it for a while. And so that's, again, where the privacy, discussion comes back. I think people are getting used to the idea and see the ultimate benefit of it in their lifestyle, and versus the downsides of these occasional privacy issues.
Now, are you finding that the university is doing a good job in preparing students to get involved in Internet of Things? Or do you think that's a gap in terms of education because it's so new and it's so fast moving? It's hard for the university to really serve that.
That's a great question. I think from a science point of view, the universities, Georgia Tech certainly do a great job of electronic engineering and mechanical and manufacturing engineering and software and artificial intelligence, all the parts that are important for Internet of Things. But I couldn't say with certainty that that they or the university systems or education systems are doing great with how do they all work together, because Internet of Things is, for me, very interesting because of all those multidisciplinary, needs from the manufacturing, electronics, software. And so that integration of all those technologies, I think, is still relatively a unique skill, and which I think is partially why, what I do at ATDC was sought after enough to let me do it. So,
right.
And that's what I like to do is marry all those technologies.
And be the bridge for people who maybe aren't thinking about using their product in this way or connecting them with different technologies that maybe they're not thinking about.
That's right. If a company is traditionally a software company, they're just now starting to think about, how would sensors and devices help my business and customer experience? Or if you're a physical product that's not connected, how can I help my business and customers if I connect it and start gathering data and providing more insight and opportunities for my customers? So I think there's a lot of traditional companies that are going in both directions of connecting or getting physical components to their products.
So now what's the kind of most innovative use of it that you've seen so far?
I think that in every kind of marketplace, there's so many, cool solutions. I mean, in the retail space, using sensors and cameras and other type of vehicles to be able to automatically check out people from the stores, like what we're seeing some Whole Foods and Amazon's doing. And the automobile space, right? The autonomous vehicles are, just fascinating. So I think every industry, smart cities are doing so many great things. So I think every industry is really making great advances there.
And what do you need more of? Are you looking for more students, more ATDC companies to just kind of reach out to you to see if there's a fit, or maybe there's ways that they're not thinking to kind of broaden their mind in terms of what possibilities are out there?
Yeah, I think I'm definitely always want to meet more companies that are interested in manufacturing physical devices and connecting it to the internet for the Internet of Things. So I'm always wanting more companies to engage with. I think it's fun, and I think it's great for this ATDC and the city and everything. And so I'm, the more the merrier.
And if somebody wanted to get a hold of you, what's the coordinates for you?
I'm also on the ATDC website under the team members, and my contact information is there, and or they'll see me around here and tap me on the shoulder.
Now, do you do workshops like Connie was talking about and classes, things like that?
Yes. We had a class last month focusing on IP security and privacy, as well as how to create your minimum viable products, prototyping to large-scale manufacturing, and talked about that. And in the fall, yet to be announced the exact time, we will have a extended workshop into each of those topics on a multi-day workshop for those topics.
Good stuff. Well, Kenji, keep up the good work, and thank you so much for sharing your story today.
Thanks for having me.
All right. This is Lee Cantor for Stone Payton. We will see you all next time on ATDC Radio.